you're cooking and hosting at your home, taste your fucking food.
Right. Cabbage is like so underrated. Like nobody's talking about cabbage. Like
I like elevating humble things.
yeah.
This business cannot thrive without people. I'm not worried about hospitality or like restaurants getting eaten up by AI and robots.
Right,
Like,
right.
I'm hospitable from the second I wake up.
Yeah.
I have to be more hospitable to myself.
Right.
You know, that's the balance that I've been
Yeah.
looking to find over the last many years.
Yeah.
You know?
I used to, when I lived here in New York and I was becoming friends with you and the crew and stuff, and I had this like kind of like polarizing experience because I hung out with all these people that were biohackers when that term was kind of becoming popular. So we'd go out on like a hike. If you brought like snacks, I remember we went on this like July 4th hike and my wife and sister brought like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches for the hike and like what random stuff, like, you know, chips, whatever. We stopped to grab food on the way and they were like kind of getting shamed for like having peanut butter sandwiches. And one of the guys is like, I hope it's not at least Skippy peanut butter, and like kind of gave her an attitude.
non-GMO.
Yeah, and like everyone's talking about their fasting. They're on their like 16th hour of like a intermittent fast, and like it was so strange. And we got to the barbecue at this house after the hike, and it was like a carnivore paleo convention. Like there was no salad, no greens, no vegetables. I think everybody stopped at Whole Foods and got the same bison or ground meat. And it was like literally just hamburgers. And that was the experience. That was everything they brought. And then we got salad. Like we made like a normal meal for the barbecue. But then I would hang out like the next day, then Libby and I would go to see you, Sonny, Derek. And it was like, you know, just enjoy. Aaron, like it was just like enjoy. Like the wine's here, the food's here. We're eating dinner at 10 o'clock. I'm like, what are we in Barcelona? Like, what is this? You know, I'm normally like eating a much earlier routine. And also the drinking component also was kind of different. Obviously, I've spent years drinking and not drinking, but it was more so like to enjoy the company and the people you're around as opposed to like
Drinking a drink.
yeah, just drinking a drink.
Get fucked up.
Yeah, drinking to get fucked up. But really, you're really like enhancing the experience, the meal, the friendship, the companionship component. And then that's sort of where you start to realize like, well, that's why Spaniards and like these European people are living longer because they're not restrictive with themselves. And if they're going to enjoy something, they're not going to shame themselves on whether or not it's like Skippy, organic peanut butter, or whatever it is. You know?
They start at a baseline higher quality in the day-to-day, and it allows them like a little bit of leeway or freedom to like indulge a bit because I'm pretty sure it's like they're consuming a general higher quality product in the day-to-day. So yeah, and if you do it like when you want to do it, if you have some discipline, moderation is totally okay. It works.
Yeah.
That's not the case for everyone.
Yeah, for sure.
I've gone back and forth.
Yeah. I find the moderation piece is tough when I get like super restrictive. Like if I try to get like too harsh on myself, like especially early on in that process, like then I tend to like when I go off the path or whatever the program is, then I become more like, like it's like, you know, I get a taste for that like other side and I'm like, give me more. I've
overcompensated in that regard, you know, trying to like pull back with so many things at once instead of being realistic. Yeah. And, you know, finding small wins. Yeah. And it's not just related to drinking. It's just like in life, you know? Yeah. How I'm going about my day, like what I'm committing to, overcommitting to, pulling back and like being okay with a realistic expectation of myself. That's something that I've been working on for the last few years. Realistic expectations. Yeah, totally. Like what's possible in a day and just, you know, managing priorities. Right.
You're someone that I know wherever you're at in your year, in the month, in the week, like I can almost guarantee when I call you, you're doing a lot. Like there's very little times I call you up and you're like, yeah, I'm just chilling at home, you know.
I'm never bored.
You're never bored. Like even if you're at home, you're still doing like 2 or 3 things.
Yeah, I had this conversation with someone the other day. Like someone talked about being bored and I'm like blown away by the concept of boredom at this point in my life.
Yeah.
Like I will never be bored for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
There's so many things that I want to explore, learn, evolve. Like being bored is like a luxury.
Yeah.
The idea of being bored on a day is like, oh my God, I haven't thought about that concept in years. So I would love to be bored for a hot minute.
In your like schedule in your life, do you feel like you didn't have a lot going on? Like a lot meaning, where you're at now. Like where was that point? Do you even remember?
10 years ago.
10 years ago. Okay.
But I mean, I generally
where were
take
you
on
at
a lot.
10 years ago?
Well, I left a little over 10 years ago. I left 11 Madison Park cooking.
How long were you there for?
3 years.
Okay.
From 2011 to 2013.
How old were you when you started?
I guess probably like, well, shit. This goes back a while now. I guess like 30. Yeah. No, 28.
28.
Yeah. 27, 28.
And so then you left 11 Madison Park after 3 years. And then, well, did you have something you had lined up for after that? Or you just kind of like stepping out as a free agent?
Yeah, I started doing like private chef stuff, doing some events, pop-ups, had a supper club at my loft in Williamsburg.
And
then started a artisanal food product company, but like I got out of the nights. I was like free of the nights, and I was making my own schedule at that point. Even though I was like kind of launching a small brand, it was more on my terms.
So you said free at night. Like, what did the nights look like before you freed up your nights? Like, what was your normal schedule?
Well, it really wasn't.
What was your normal schedule though at 11?
Well, for a while I worked like in a day, and I was there at 5:45 in the morning, like full on pounding pavement, like every second counted. To get set up for the lunch service and whatever. And I did that for like a year and a half, but I would have to go to bed at like...
What time would you finish for the lunch service? Like what time would you...
4:30, 5.
So you grab something to eat and then go to crash around 8 or 9? No.
During those days, I still got after it. I was lacking in sleep, but I was, you're young and
resilient
in regards to that. Yeah, I could bounce back. Can't bounce back as much.
Yeah.
I still have a surprising amount of energy.
Yeah, no,
even when
I'm blown away by you.
Well, but it's not the same.
Yeah,
I could push it a little bit more. It's not about like whether I can or can't. It's about like what I choose.
Right. Yeah.
I rely a bit more on just like a more intentional process of my day to day.
Did you hit a wall at some point, do you think, where you like overdid it for too long and you were like tapped out of reserves?
I think that happens periodically no matter what.
Yeah.
And it's important to recognize and be able to step back and like just be I guess less committal.
Yeah.
More committal to myself, less committed to everything else.
Right. Not overcommitting, not saying you're going to do yes to everything.
Yes. And that was a hindrance for me. I mean, I guess self-inflicted, but for many years.
So when you left 11 Madison Park,
no
do you think that's what happened? Because it sounded like you started doing a lot, like the supper clubs, I
mean, it was nice to have nights.
Right.
But, I got sucked back in.
Yeah. Were you in a relationship after 11 Madison Park, or were you like single and like just enjoying that kind of New York experience as well? Or were you dating someone like kind of in something?
I was dating someone and then I wasn't. And then I was. I'm always pretty much dating someone. But I try to give myself like, 6 months to a year between.
Yeah. Take a breather.
Yeah. I'm a serial
monogamist.
Dating relationship guy.
Yeah.
But try to find a little something in between.
Yeah.
I'm currently very, very happy where I'm at right now with my girlfriend.
Yeah, nice, man. So then the supper clubs, and then you were working with Andrew as well on some other projects.
Yep, started a artisanal brown butter company, first ready-to-eat, shelf-stable brown butter out of a jar in America, literally put it on anything. And then, that was like a small kind of, grassroots type of beginnings for that
Selling
company.
Like at farmers markets or like...
Yeah, little pop-ups on our website, this and that, making everything by hand, doing it all.
How'd you guys think about doing that? Because he was at 11 Madison Park as well, right?
Yeah, we met there. I mean, honestly, both of my business partners for the separate businesses right now, the wine bar, cocktail bar, and then the brown butter company. Both of those guys I met at 11 Madison Park, and it's an intense environment, and you find rapport and like camaraderie with people
after hours. Like you guys would talk about these potential endeavors or be on
I was
shift?
doing pop-ups at supper clubs then, and we started serving some whipped brown butter that smeared on
at the dinners at the supper clubs.
And people are like, what is this?
Yeah, people are into it.
How can I get it?
Yeah.
And then eventually we were like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's make it a CPG product. And that was my first foray into that world, which is totally different, honestly, than restaurants and hospitality.
That in itself could be a full-time job that's packed. Like you could be doing that all day, all night, weekends.
Yeah, it kind of
holidays.
feels like I have 3 full-time jobs
that's
right
what it
now.
feels like.
But I had, like I said, during that time, I was like overcommitting myself.
Yeah.
But when you overcommit yourself in entrepreneurial ventures, you're kind of stuck.
Right. Yeah.
It's up to you.
Right.
Like
it's on you. You're on the hook.
Yeah. You can't be like, give your notice.
Right. Yeah.
Or take a vacation. And not have to worry.
Though I will say, since we've met, and we probably met 4 or 5, maybe 6 years ago now, you definitely take more trips and more vacation in the last, like, I'd say since like the pandemic, like since like the early part of the pandemic, you definitely have carved out more personal time for yourself that's out of the like sphere of your normal routine.
Yeah, I'm not like the best like forward planner with things that are related to my own life sustainability, like personal self-care.
Right.
I've been working on that significantly.
That's how we met. I mean, that's kind of how we started hanging. I mean,
so that was like meeting you is kind of like after we had after I came to one of your first breathwork sessions that I had been to, I latched on and, we developed our unique relationship. And that was definitely like a moment where I feel like a lot started to shift, or you helped give me space for things to shift in regards to, considering myself in a world where, in a world of hospitality where it's pretty much just giving, and providing for everyone around you.
Yeah.
But a lot of what I want to do, a lot of what I'm passionate about, a lot of what the industry needs, and it's cool to see that there's been, shifts over the last few years of giving, employees like a sense of worth, value add, sustainability. Right. It ain't a perfect world, but
of course
there's strides toward that. And, I stand for that culturally in our operations.
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, I've been to both your places, and obviously the new place is new and you guys are getting things going and it's getting popular quickly. But even like the old place, not the old place, but the established place, you guys definitely have like a culture there. There's definitely an environment where it's friendly, people are nice to each other. It's not like, I've worked in some restaurants and kitchens and it can be intense from front of the house to back of the house. Like you can get screamed at I was back front of the house mostly, and I'd go back there and I would have anxiety. I didn't know what it was at the time, but I'd be like, the chef's nuts. Like he might curse me out. He might, throw something. And it was, it was kind of like that in most of the restaurants I worked at. But whenever and obviously I'm going in with you in the kitchen, so everyone's really nice and friendly because it's you, but I got the impression that no matter who it was coming back there, there's like a nice vibe and energy.
Yeah, I mean, it's always intense, but I stand for the culture of the kitchen and the establishment in general to be one of like inclusivity, mutual respect, you know, and adult communication.
Yeah.
And, you know, I want people to be enthusiastic to be there on their own terms.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not forcing anyone.
Did you work at places that you hated going to? And you don't have to name the places if you don't want, but did you find like there was times where you got into a kitchen, you're like, I just don't like the energy in this place. When I come in, it's intense and everyone's kind of like in a bad fucking mood.
Honestly, I think I've chosen wisely. I've worked at a few spots for a long period of time, and I worked at a couple spots in Europe, in the Basque Country, in London, in Italy. And that was either, you know, connections through a friend who knew someone there, and, you know, I worked for free, or I helped out a friend at another spot, or just like I associated myself with places that I was super passionate about, the, you know, style of food, the culture of the place, of the country. So I kind of immersed myself in that. And, you know, with no ego, just absorbing, you know, learning. And then, for the last 10 years, it's been like my own kind of style of operation. So, no, I don't think that I've actually worked for any extensive period of time at a place that I didn't want to be at.
Did you see major differences, or do you see major differences in working in a kitchen in Europe versus working in one here in the States?
You know, I think all kitchens can vary, like whether you're uptown,
right,
downtown in New York City, you know, around the corner.
Yeah, but is like the terminology overseas the same and like the way it functions?
Yeah, I think the general like sense of kitchen culture is pretty overlapping. I think it's just like the standard of the restaurant and how intense it becomes. And
do you think the standards are different in Europe in some level, like at a baseline level from kitchen to kitchen versus here in the States? Because obviously you talked about food quality. So then I wonder, does that also lend itself into other parts or other components?
I think there's bad food everywhere, and there's incredible food and standards everywhere.
Is it easier to find incredible food in the Basque Country and in Europe than it is here in the States?
I think what is grown and considered standard for people's daily lives is definitely of more like integrity and like a bit more wholesome in how it's grown over there in Europe. But, you know, you have to really make those choices for yourself. And every kitchen, every place is different. I think I choose where I want to be.
Right.
And you know who you're associating with.
Right.
So, I think it's more of a matter of choice of what environment you're committing to.
Right. And then in terms of like sourcing here in the States, like obviously I've seen you at the Union Square Farmers Market. Like I know, like, you know, you will try to source at a very high level. You think that becomes easier in Europe because they just have more access to like potentially more farms that are organic, or they might not even say organic. That's just the standard that they all sort of work by. Is that kind of easier? Does that help the margins at all?
I think baseline, it's probably easier to find that. I mean, but you know, we're in a major city with one of the most competitive hospitality industries in the world. So like we have accessibility.
Yeah.
You have to just make the effort to source it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's a big part of it.
Yeah.
And then also too, like in terms of like the culture that you bring and what you've done in your restaurants, which I always like marvel at how much energy you have and excitement you have, like the enthusiasm you have to like create those special nights and those special programs that like a lot of restaurants just don't do. It's not like you're doing just a special of the week or a special of the night. I mean, you're redesigning menus, and not just in a certain style. Like you're bringing in like a Hawaiian Polynesian night, and you know, you're just kind of going through different sort of different looks for the restaurant all the time.
Yeah, and it's always represented by the team that we have. We're not just like pulling those events out of the blue. It's kind of standing to give a platform for like our team, and kind of almost helping them incubate an idea or a concept or like a mini brand, and then like putting them on the pedestal and the platform to like tell that story, and using us as like a vehicle and helping show them how to go from like start to finish on executing an event. And like I don't necessarily often or barely ever feature like famous chefs or like do collab dinners in that regard in our spaces, because we choose to give that opportunity to the people who are committed to us every day, and like help them kind of breed something new for themselves. And also it gives us an opportunity to switch up like the day-to-day.
And they must get really excited when it's like their evolution of that new look.
Yeah, and it's kind of like a guided evolution, and then they can take those skill sets and use them elsewhere in life. Honestly, like for me, I'm not as concerned now as like being the chef,
Yeah.
I'm prioritizing the people who work with us, because you can't just do the thing like you used to be able to do. Like people come in, they clock out. You gotta dig in a little bit and find a place for them to have value add, and see a little bit more worth in the job. Like it's so competitive in New York, and you have to care immensely. Like I'd say 75% of my week is trying to keep people energized, happy, aligned.
Yeah.
That's like been the biggest challenge. But I'm also very rewarded by that, because this business, I still truly believe cannot thrive without people.
Yeah.
Like I'm not worried about hospitality or like restaurants getting eaten up by AI and robots.
Right.
Yeah, for quick casual things that may work for a business model, but I mean the human touch and the interaction of is gold. It's still paramount, and I don't see that going anywhere.
What do you look
very
for
confident
in staff? Like when you're staffing, and obviously it depends front versus back, or people in general, but like are there specific things, if you see that on an interview or you see that in a person when you meet them as a potential new hire, like do you have like a checklist or something that is like a really good sign this person's going to fit or potentially fit really well here?
Yeah, I mean, it's a cultural thing. And when I say that, I mean like the culture of our organization and how we've evolved that over the last 10 years. Because now we just went from having one wine bar in Soho for the last 10 and a half years to now opening another wine bar in Flatiron.
What are they called?
Compagnie NYC is the flagship, based in Paris, but we run that one in Soho, and that's been like kind of like our baby here in New York domestically. And then we opened our second iteration of that, La Compagnie Wine Bar in Flatiron, in June. And then we opened an experimental cocktail club in the basement there, which is a totally different venue. So we went from 1 to 3, and that was like 20, 22 employees to now like 55 to 60.
You just did a lot of new hires.
Yeah, I mean, we like basically doubled, tripled the amount of staff that we have, and like everyone matters.
Yeah,
and we've had like pretty high retention at the new spaces, but it's never always going to be perfect. You have people you filter through, but my goal is to keep people as long as possible, and like it's up to us to figure out how to do that, honestly. Like,
and you're handling most of the hiring. Like, you obviously have a big part in the interview process.
For the kitchen team, back of house team, I still do all of that, but I involve my management team in the back of house I want them to take those, to have those skills and like be able to distill down who fits with us culturally.
Yeah. So what would you say like are the high points of like the culture piece? Like is it confidence, excitement, enthusiasm? Like what would you say are there particular like points you?
Well, I always say we take the service, product, hospitality seriously, but we don't take ourselves too seriously.
Right.
So that's definitely something that I look for in people as well to align with. I want them to want to feel that for themselves.
Yeah.
First and foremost, because then I know that the niche kind of style that we've carved out for ourselves is aligned, and then they can therefore thrive in that space.
Right.
You know? If someone's trying to do like hyper fine dining, then they're not going to necessarily have a good time because we're not trying to do that. You know, I'm totally okay with that. You know, you have to know your place and what market you're trying to meet. We try to do like a high-low thing. You know, the design, the service style is casual but like educated. And the food is like very technical and high-reaching, but it comes, you know, it's perceived like more simply on the plates.
Right.
And that's what we're going for. You know, we want people to be able to come back there 2-3 times a week if or be able to have that unique experience multiple times per week. It's not like it could be a special occasion place, but you could also pop in with a coworker or date or family or whatever.
Now, would you say this is like a reflection of like the Compagnie brand, or is this really, I mean, obviously you too, like what would you say? Because I've never been to anything else Compagnie, and I know they're a global company, hospitality, hotels.
Yeah, I think we've made it very New York.
Yeah.
You know, it's got to have some edge.
Yeah.
It's got to have some fun, some playfulness, like not taking ourselves too seriously. But it's also got to deliver because,
of course,
you know, there's thousands of places to eat and drink in New York. And you got to still be offering something unique. Yeah. And you got to be pushing the boundary a little bit.
Yeah. You still get inspired when you go out to eat in the city? Like you still go to places and you're like kind of blown away still?
Yeah, I cook on my days off. I still like enjoy it. It's like brings me a lot of joy and gratification to cook for people.
That's how we met too. I mean, not really how we met. We met before that, but the first night we hung out, we went to our friend's place, and I'll never forget it because everyone, you, Aaron, Derek, were kind of all cooking your own things, and you made all this cabbage and you grilled it, and it was like it was funny because like I like cabbage, you know, like obviously like anybody else, but like you were going on about the cabbage, and I've thought about it a lot since then because cabbage is such like an interesting thing that it's not specific to like one country. There's there's like Eastern European peas, like
sustain people through famine and war, and you know, for thousands of years.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't get into like the history of it, but you were like almost like, man, cabbage is like so underrated. Like nobody's talking about cabbage. Like cabbage is.
I've been saying that for 5 years, now you like see food publications like cabbage is the new thing. I'm like, I've been preaching cabbage.
He's been on the cabbage
ever. So my girlfriend makes fun of me.
How'd you make it?
My chef friends make fun of me for like always,
right?
Yeah, just like it takes well to like strong flavor.
Yeah. Like, and there was like a sauce component to it as well.
I think it was probably like
I kind of remember like a citrus like lemon situation.
Probably some brown butter.
Definitely some brown butter, 100%.
Brown butter king. Yeah. But yeah, it takes really well to like charring, grilling, like you can impart a lot of flavor into cabbage.
Yeah,
so,
and like
anyway, it's so funny just like talking about it. It's like sounds so lame, but I swear by it.
It was funny though because like you would come later on. So like I think Derek and Aaron also cooked, but they had cooked throughout the day, and knowing how you were coming probably like from work or your second or third.
For sure.
Yeah, like you're coming in hot. You wanted to like catch up. This was like all of our first kind of like hang post Derek's birthday, and you were coming in hot with the cabbage, and like we were all sort of like we moved away from the kitchen area, but you wanted to be like in the mix. Like you're like, come on, like I'm in here, I'm making all this cabbage, like let's hang, let's enjoy. And it was just like a really like good time. And like not to bring it all the way back to the biohacking, but it just showed me how important the food, the wine, the experience is, and like actually connecting with people and like hearing you talk about cabbage or, I think I don't remember what Aaron made, but or Derek, to be honest with you, the cabbage, like it'll never leave me.
The humble cabbage
and listen,
made its impact. Yeah.
I eat a lot of kimchi now, and I went through a period where I was eating a lot of sauerkraut, and it's definitely stuck with me, the idea that all these other parts of the world have connected over this ingredient. And there's something about it, and I think even the last time we hung out, I might have asked you about it, because like why it's like a health standard in countries like, the kimchi piece, the sauerkraut piece, like it's really good for the gut microbiome. It's like really easy and accessible. It's not expensive. So, it's a really interesting ingredient.
I like elevating humble things.
Yeah.
Like taking something that is not perceived as luxury.
Yeah.
And giving people an opportunity to try it in a way that's like, wow, I had never had this thing like this.
Yeah.
And I get still a lot of gratification. I think I always say it's probably half the reason I cook is changing people's preconceived notion about something that they had a bad experience with or never had the ingredient treated the best way or not seasoned properly. And like that aha moment is for me still a huge reason why I cook.
Do you ever get nervous to cook for people? Like, is there ever like a specific moment where you're like, because I know it's like a non-professional chef, like you're making a dinner for friends, you kind of get nervous. You're like, shit, I can't mess this up. I'm spending all this time. They're coming over, because it's hard to fake bad food. It's like hard for someone to eat food and you're like, this isn't very good and I'm going to have to force myself. Do you ever get nervous for any situations that you cook for?
I mean, I probably used to, for sure. Like I wanted people to,
of course, be
a good host.
Yeah.
I want to be exceptional.
So it'd be more in like a personal setting versus like at the restaurant, like in
I probably got
setting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure like earlier on in my career, like I would get nervous in multiple regards, but I think I don't anymore.
Yeah.
I am confident in what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I know my strengths. I know where there are gaps,
Yeah.
And I lean in.
Yeah.
And I can frame it now as like, as long as I'm tasting my food,
right,
I know it's going to be good.
It's good.
Words of wisdom: if you're cooking and hosting at your home, taste your fucking food.
Right.
How are you going to put something out for people? And maybe this is like a chef restaurant kind of mentality, but I don't think it should be.
No.
If you're serving people something that you want them to enjoy and they're consuming it into their body, it's a very intimate thing.
It is.
Like you're touching ingredients, you're sourcing ingredients, and you're telling people to consume it, and like that goes right into your body. And like you can taste love, you can taste like the energy, I think, behind it.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you don't season your food and you have a lot of love, that may not cut it.
Yeah.
You need both. You need both, right?
Yeah. What was the point where you decided like this is, because it's a very sort of unique lifestyle choice. Like it's not for everyone, for sure. When was there a point in time where you're like, went to a restaurant, ate someone's food, someone was doing it, and you're just like, this is for me?
I started kind of like dabbling when I was actually at Boston University School of Management, and then I got pretty pretty like
obsessed
with
serious,
the idea
like
of cooking.
Business program, right? It was like
I switched into that school like midway through, and I just started cooking like, on my vacations, on my time off, and I actually quit my job out of college.
You graduated from the school.
Yeah, and then I had a job lined up.
What was the job?
I was actually going to go into like men's fashion.
Okay.
But like, on the business side, buying side, going to a whole program.
Yeah.
To develop that. But
were you working with a brand already or with like a department store?
I was gonna be like, in the men's like buying program at Saks Fifth Avenue.
All right, nice, yeah.
I know it's so not. I mean, I appreciate.
I know you love fashion
style, but
yeah.
like, I basically quit my job before I started and got my foot in the door to a restaurant.
You didn't even have a day there yet. You didn't go into an office. You didn't do the whole deal.
No, I went and decided to work for $8 an hour.
How far away were you from working in that office? Like, were you like a week or two away? Or
a little bit further out, but I still shifted my entire framework of what I felt I needed for myself. And I mean, $8 an hour.
Washing dishes?
No, I started cooking, but it was my first day working in a restaurant. I never served. You
didn't go to culinary school, obviously, because you
didn't go to culinary school and never have. Like after a BU education, I can't
restaurant
pay for culinary
was in
school.
Long Island or here?
Yeah, I was at Long Island, a new little spot, friend of a friend. They're like, okay, we'll give them a shot, you know?
Yeah.
Every place I've worked when I was on the greener side, like over the first couple of years, I was hired off of character.
Right, yeah.
And my like conviction that I will work my ass off. And honestly, that's like a huge thing. That's a huge thing. I can teach someone how to cook, but you can't teach someone integrity. You can't teach someone standards. You can try to impart standards on them, but it's an intrinsic thing.
You look into that, like you feel that from people when you're interviewing them. Not to go back to that, but
for sure. I mean, but you don't really know till you know. You have to see people doing it. And that's why you have like kind of an interview trail, which is called in the industry. When you know, it's like a working interview for a couple hours, and that's when you can start to see like their standards.
Yeah.
Anyone could tell you something on paper.
Right. Or interview well.
It's not like it's an active physical like, showcase of what you stand for when you're in the kitchen. Right? It says a lot about a person. So
someone makes a lot of mistakes, but they're like a go-getter and they're like open to like learning, but they're going for it. That would be a good sign.
I'd rather have someone that is open to learning, has no ego, or, you know, thinks that they know it all and is willing to like see our way. Yeah. You know, than someone who's super skilled and thinks that their way is the only way, or wherever they worked previously is the only way. Right. There's 1,000 ways to do it, something in a kitchen. Yeah. And there's different mindsets behind how it's executed. So yeah, I think, you know, molding and carving someone out to kind of fit our culture, they have to, you know, be aligned with that. They have to want to be a part of it. But yeah, as far as just the skill set, I'd rather have someone like a little bit greener and give them value. Right. You know,
what was the kitchen that you felt like you learned the most? And not necessarily technically, but just in terms of the work ethic, the level, like the intensity, and maybe pushed you to grow the fastest or the furthest?
I'd say I've chosen wisely. Like every place I've gotten a lot out of, but that also requires a loyalty to that place. I wasn't want to like go 3 months here, 6 months here, like cooks do these days, just to like throw something on the resume, say they worked there. I did do that a bit in Europe, but that wasn't somewhere I was like necessarily looking to stay living, you know. But I still committed everything to that place and worked for free. Like, so it wasn't like taking without giving. I was giving a lot.
Right, of course.
And in exchange, I got more of that culture of that place. Really, what I do now is a culmination of all of those places. I think I've chosen wisely. I don't think one place necessarily was better or worse than the other. It's like I got organization and discipline from this place. I got a commitment to, you know, ingredient quality at most of those places. I got like leadership qualities and kindness and not leading through fear from like, you know, this chef or that chef. Yeah. So I've never been one to like lead in the kitchen through fear. I think that's super anti-productive. Yeah. And that's a huge part of our culture, is like a mutual respect for coworkers. I expect that of my team for each other, and I expect that of myself and for them. Right. Yeah.
That makes sense. And do you think, in terms of like the culture of food right now in restaurants, do you think it's in a good place? Like overall, you think people in kitchens, like it's shifted obviously in the last 3-4 years, the Me Too stuff came out and all of that. Like, do you think that the culture, and obviously you're in your kitchen mostly, so you can really only speak to that, but you have friends in the industry. Do you think the standards have shifted at all?
I mean, I think, yes, for sure, significantly, because the system was so broken. I mean, the hospitality model is still very challenging to like as a business model because it's very labor heavy. And if you're buying good ingredients, it's very cost heavy in that regard. But the human element, it's like, it's a blessing, but you have to be really vigilant about how you allocate those resources in your place. But I'm happy to see the shift in employees, consideration and rights and more acknowledgement around and sensitivity to like the workplace in that regard. I mean, that's huge for the industry. Yeah. And I'm pushing on that, like, day in and day out for us. I think everyone makes a difference in that regard. Like, it's not going to happen overnight. Yeah. But yeah, it's shifted significantly. It's become tricky, to implement things that you want to implement, maybe more so than it used to be, because you're just constantly considering every little nuance of the team. But that's important. Yeah. So I stand for it. It's just people have a lot more opinions and people have a lot more of like expectations of the employer. Yeah. Which I'm up for the challenge, but you don't just dictate as much as you used to be able to. You have to consider people. Right. Yeah. If you want to, I think, succeed.
You think there's obviously still restaurants though where it's more of like a dictatorship, that it's just like one person back there calling all the shots, like running the program from start to finish?
Yeah, I mean, I think those places still exist, probably more in fine dining.
Yeah. That culture is probably really embedded.
Yeah. That's hard to shake. But I think people don't have the tolerance for it anymore. They'll get up and walk out. Like,
do you think that style of leadership is the easiest or maybe the most direct way to have a higher overall like quality, like a standard, because somebody just sees it a certain way and they just know how things should be done and this is the only way to get it done? You think it's easier to kind of get the results that you're looking for?
I appreciate someone having a vision and a standard, but how they implement that and how it trickles down through the team, no, I don't think that's the most effective way. I don't think that's the only way. Yeah. I'm about like collaboration, consideration. I am open to having people like, so I think the system could be better in this, aspect of the operation. Like I always am open to having that conversation, Yeah. I'm always open to learning from everyone as much as I'm able to like teach. Yeah. So like these mentalities I think are important today, to have team retention, to give people like, if we're in the hospitality business and we're committing to treat the guests that way, like it's even that much more essential that you do so for your team. Yeah. You have to be hospitable to your team. Like first. Yeah. That then they carry that weight to the guest. Like it's all circular.
Yeah, that energy is contagious. Whether if it's toxic in the kitchen, then on some level it's gonna trickle outside.
Yeah, and if someone's walking in with a delivery, I'll offer them water. Yeah. Like hospitality starts at the door. Right. I'm hospitable from the second I wake up. Yeah. Right. I have to be more hospitable to myself. Right. That's the balance that I've been looking to find over the last many years. Yeah. And boundaries is a huge component of that.
Yeah. It's like the overarching thing.
Yeah.
For sure.
I have been horrible with boundaries for most of my life. But I've put a lot of thought and intention into like finding some more of that for myself. Yeah. Having just opened 2 new establishments in the city, like doesn't necessarily like align with having boundaries, but it's all like, it's in the beginning and you got to like give it everything. Right. But you could pull back and like, I'm trying to find a little more for myself. Yeah. in tandem,
right?
Not one versus the other, but like sneak in. And we've talked about this extensively. Like a little goes a long way for me.
Totally. Yeah.
10 minutes of breath work.
Yeah.
You know,
the cold shower in the morning, going for the cold runs, going to kickboxing, like all the stuff that you enjoy to do. And I know I'm in the same boat. It's like, I could do this more. I could go to jujitsu. I could go to kickboxing. I could, start my day with the breath work or get in to do those things. I know the cold shower for you has been non-negotiable for a long time.
There's very few non-negotiables. Like my every single day is different for me. Yeah. Like that's the blessing and the curse of running wine bars, restaurants, cocktail bars. It's like you never know what is gonna. You have a plan.
Yeah, of course.
Have a priority list, and then 2 hours into my day, it's completely derailed, and I have to Mike Tyson recalibrate.
Quote, you always have a plan, and then you get hit in the face, and the plan goes out the window.
Right. That pretty much happens on
daily every day. Basis. Yeah, it's like putting out fires.
Yeah. But I think it's a pretty crucial skill set.
Yeah.
What we do in like restaurants and is so much related to like how we deal with life.
Right.
And I want people to leave my place like whenever that time comes to have like life skills.
Right.
Not just cooking skills.
Right.
Like I truly believe that I can give more.
Right.
Like impart what we talk about for ourselves.
Yeah.
And like share a little tidbit of that, throughout the week.
Yeah.
Mental health and spirituality and that, breathing. And
like, why do you think like it was obviously good timing? Like we met, I was just starting to teach breathwork in the city. I was obviously doing ice baths, things like that, which was hard for you to ever come to because those were normally workshops on the weekend. I had this Thursday midday breathwork session in the city in Flatiron. And I think you or Aaron, you guys either came together, but you guys both were working in restaurants and that window worked for both of you guys time-wise. I guess that's a good window for people that work at night is to come at noon in the middle of the work week.
Yeah.
And you were very consistent. Like you would come every week and I definitely could tell, like I can tell as a guide, I can tell when someone's like connecting to something in there. Like they like this, like this works for them. Cause I had other chef friends that came in that didn't resonate with it, that felt very uncomfortable, very off, stressed, whatever. It just wasn't their speed. They weren't into it. But something happened with you or you would drop in and you just seemed to find it at the right time.
Well, I think you're spot on. I needed to find something like that.
Yeah.
Because I gave myself little to no outlet for, separating from the day-to-day intensity. And that was like a moment of reprieve.
Yeah.
And not to say it wasn't slightly uncomfortable, but I think like I was like looking for something like that.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable or different that would shake up.
Yeah.
Or give me a space to like bypass, all of those thought patterns that I couldn't turn off.
Yeah, I mean,
the breath work and the cold.
Like open up other like neural pathways, like other parts of your brain that you can't really drop into like a very calm state in your normal daily routine.
Yes, I was waiting for you to give the
Listen, I like to hear your rendition of it. Verbiage. But yeah, you particularly in the cold really seemed to connect to something. And it was pretty instantaneous. I kind of remember your first ice bath experience. You came and you seemed to like, some people get in and they get out immediately, but you got in and you could just tell that you dropped into that state fairly quickly and you enjoyed being in that state.
Yeah, obviously it's like super taxing like initially and uncomfortable for sure. I mean, ice baths are never like super comfortable, but that's the point, right? And then, I mean, the breath work and the cold and the mindset thing, we've talked a lot about Wim Hof and whatever. I haven't done as much of that lately, but I go like super zen.
Yeah.
Like the mindset of being able to, it gives a lot of strength in the day to day, which is why there's like a theme that I want to be conveying in the hospitality business, like the stressors that kind of activate daily. I want people to find outlets for this more, to navigate and stay grounded.
Right. Well, the stressors aren't going anywhere.
No.
They're always going to be there.
Yeah, in everyone's life.
Yeah.
So finding what works for you, this happened to be something that worked for me, and I latched on like hard. Yeah. And I still take a cold shower every morning.
Yeah.
What, 5 years after I met you?
Yeah.
I've like put away the ego a little bit with it.
Of
like,
course.
I need to take a cold shower
totally.
every day.
Yeah, if you're like fighting a cold, you're getting sick, you're not going to like punish yourself.
Like at night, I like sometimes I take a hot shower, you know?
Yeah, and then you maybe splash.
But then in the morning, I still take a cold shower.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's like another thing, like putting the ego aside to just be like okay with being gentle with yourself.
Yeah,
like,
totally.
I know I'm confident, I'm super committed to it.
Yeah, of course. It's in your system.
So I don't have to like prove myself, you know?
Yeah, I think too, it goes back to maybe what we kind of started with early on, talking about like the people in food and hospitality that I'm friends with, and then also the people on the wellness side of the spectrum when they were being so restrictive and punitive about the type of peanut butter or the meat or this or that. Like, you're not even enjoying the experience then. You're like giving yourself a rundown or a checklist or something really intense to abide by, whereas the other people on the spectrum are hopefully enjoying the meals, even if it's not, you know, whatever, if it's not the level of, you know, a carnivore diet or a paleo or whatever, you know, to enjoy.
Yeah, I think you just need to be like okay with things not always being perfect.
Yeah.
I told myself that yesterday.
In the kitchen or in general?
Yeah, and like just related to, I take so much like, life exploration from what I do every day. And if I wasn't so passionate about it still, like so like appreciative of the environment and the people that I surround myself with, I definitely wouldn't keep doing it.
Yeah.
This is I work like 14 hours a day.
No, for sure.
But like there's a reward to that. And
is the reward but
if
giving
something's
people
not
good
perfect,
experience?
For sure.
Yeah.
The team and the guests.
Yeah.
But I was just gonna say, like, we did an amazing thing yesterday. You know, I put like 5 dishes on the menu. My team crushed it. We had like a 40-person party.
What's the dish you're most excited about? Sorry, I know it's like a kid, but whatever. You gotta, I mean, what's the one that you were like, you made, you're like, this is a banger.
I just put this fried frog leg dish on the menu at the cocktail bar. That my head bartender was like, she's French. She's like,
yeah, Natalie,
we do frog legs. Like,
yeah.
Like, yes, we can do frog legs. Like, we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We make it fun, playful, like high-low.
Yeah.
Which is what you do.
Yeah. Is that like a phrase that you coined, high-low?
I don't think it's a phrase that I coined.
All right.
It's been kicking around forever, but that is something that I latch onto a lot in how we present ourselves, you know? Yeah. And that's how, that for my own self, my personal brand, you know, and the company's brand, you know, I think that's like the sweet spot right now for people. They're like over the high and like, but people still want like an elevated experience. Right. So, I mean, there's lots of places you could go low. Yeah. You know,
for sure. That's never going anywhere.
There's places you could go high, but I think high-low is like that sweet spot.
Right.
You're getting like the quality, the experience is welcoming. Yeah. Knowledgeable. Yeah. But approachable. Yeah. Like, isn't that kind of all what we want?
Yeah, I think so.
Like, there's a comfort to that, but there's still an expectation.
Right. Yeah.
You know?
It's not being phoned in, or it's just not an expensive ingredient that's not executed in the right way. That's just like fancy on the menu with a high price tag.
Yeah.
Nice, man. Well, I have a dream not to get too historic, but I have a fantasy and a vision of us doing the retreat together. Wellness, food, wine, everything executed at a super high level. So I hold out hope that one day, we'll put something together in the Basque Country, hiking, waterfalls, breathwork, incredible meals, dinners.
I'm for this.
I know. Listen, I know it's the long game. I play the long game with it, but that's something I have, jotted down in my, manifestation notebook.
I love it. The process is something that I've started to appreciate way more, or like force myself to appreciate way more, instead of like the overwhelming nature of, your ultimate life goals.
Yeah.
Like just focusing on like that thing. It's very hard to get there if you're not enjoying much more of the process and like celebrating the small wins.
Totally.
Like, that's been huge for me.
Yeah.
So anytime we can create like a little more substance around that idea, for me, it's a small win.
Yeah. I remember what you put together in the midst of the pandemic that first summer at a Supernatural Lake.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is it. This is it. This is it. A farm to table experience out in the middle of nature in the forest, beautiful lake, yoga, breathing, all that stuff. I was like, this is it.
Yeah, there's a lot there.
And you activated that fast. So I know it's there. Obviously, a lot going on.
I just want to, I truly want to like ultimately in my career, like bridge the gap between hospitality, culture, spiritual wellness.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot there. It doesn't have to be in nature. It has to.
Yeah.
It can be in the heart of like downtown Manhattan.
Sure.
Like how can more people in this business find balance and boundaries and sustainability? Like I want that for people. I want that for myself. I want people. I don't want this industry to be perceived as toxic. We've come a long way, but there's so much further to go. And I think this element of like giving tools to in the day to day, if it's 5 minutes here or 5 seconds there, like to bring a little more like calm and groundedness and like consideration for ourselves and the people around us. I mean, that's gonna allow us to want to be there every day, for you're not gonna be burnt out in a year.
Do you think that like headspace, the like kind of balanced lifestyle, work, production, but also like qualitative experience, do you think that is a better sort of ecosystem for like creative endeavors, like creating good dishes, creating good quality food, like being in the right calm headspace helps more, or being under pressure and stressed and tense and anxious, like kind of being under the gun is actually a better.
It's funny how it was like 100%. It's a better environment for it. Like, but I don't want to sound flowery. Like, every day is like 100 decisions that need to be taken immediately.
Yeah, and maybe you don't have the time or the luxury to like really work on something for hours and hours.
And you got to be confident in what you already know and like use that experience to like put it on the plate. I work very well under deadlines. Yeah, I get a lot done with deadlines. That's kind of like something I need to push. And get things accomplished.
So if you have too much time, sometimes you can maybe be indecisive. You can overthink things. You want to like overdo something.
It's a bit of both. You kind of need a bit of both.
Yeah.
But it's harder to find that creative space. Like I haven't had that kind of
you haven't been bored in a long time
for creative space as much so, and that's something that I do crave, and that's something I need to like find boundaries around. Like maybe I leave an hour earlier tonight and give myself just a little more room to think about the things I want to think about versus the things that I have to think about, Do
you think in the kitchen you ever get into what's known as like a flow state where you're like under duress, it's a stressful environment, like stakes are high, but you feel very calm and super focused and things are almost happening slow even though the intensity of the space around you is everything's moving much faster.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not cooking every day right now because we're operating 3 places, and it's like I'm fixing the bathroom, I'm fixing the HVAC, there's all these other things. So I find flow state on a rare occasion in my day, but it's so erratic, and I'm always like here, there, uptown, downtown, so I think that's easier if you're like in one place for an extended period of time and super like focused.
You're running around constantly.
Yeah, it's never a dull moment.
Yeah,
but, I mean, it's kind of what I thrive on, I think.
Yeah, I think so too.
I wouldn't mind being bored for a day.
Yeah. Listen, maybe in Greece next summer. Thank you again. What can you tell anybody who's listening or watching this? Like, where can they find you? What do you want to promote? Like, what are you excited about right now that you're doing?
I mean, I would love for people to pop into any one of the wine bars. Compagnie, Compagnie NYC.com. It's the French one. And then Experimental Cocktail Club as well. So that's like, there's some established place, there's some new places. And I love my team. Super proud of who they are and what we've become. At Eric W. Bolyard, Bolyard, is my personal. And I just want to like be able to share more of what we talk about in my day-to-day with people. The spiritual wellness aspect like keeps me grounded. And the chaotic nature of running hospitality businesses in New York. So I think there's something there